So welcome to Hatha. We're going to go ahead and start on our backs this evening. You can be completely flat to the earth. We are going to use a rolled bolster, rolled blanket, like I talked about just a few minutes ago for those of you doing this in the Zoom class. But we're not going to use it till the end. So that can just kind of sit off to the side until then. We're going to head back to our mats, get on our backs, and just start to feel a little more grounded into the earth. As you know, I don't play music, so if you want to turn on any kind of music in the background, feel free to do so. I'm going to head back to my back, but I'm going to start you with a little bit of opening intention. So just take your time, get comfortable on the earth, let your back rest into the ground, back of the head. Legs might be long or knees might be bent, whichever you feel most comfortable with. Today's opening intention is, it is safe to look within. This comes from the Power Thought cards of Louise Hay. And it says, as I move through the layers of other people's opinions and beliefs, I see within myself a magnificent being, wise and beautiful. I love what I see in me. As I move through the layers of other people's opinions and beliefs, I see within myself a magnificent being. Wise and beautiful. I love what I see in me. Allowing the layers to just start to peel away today, knowing that it is safe to look within, and when the quiet comes throughout this practice, embrace it. It can often be pretty difficult to go within. It can often be pretty difficult to get quiet, to be still, and let the knowing happen. But it is safe to look within because I love what I see in me. Resting on your back, starting to add just a little bit of active movement into the body. That might look like legs fully extended down the mat, or it might look like bent knees. You might start to even stretch the arms up overhead, making the body nice and long. Looking to see what types of shapes feel good in our spine today. If the knees have been bent, maybe let the legs stretch long. Take a nice long body stretch with arms up overhead, pointing and flexing the toes or rolling around the ankles. Hopefully you've got some sort of calm state set up within your home, whether that be music or lighting, or just an inviting space that allows you to relax on the earth. As you feel ready, start to let your heels walk towards the left edge of your mat. Head, neck, shoulders, arms start to lift towards the ceiling and then slightly over to that same left side of the mat. Hands might stretch off the mat onto the floor as you take somewhat of a banana shape with the spine. Just letting that side wall take its time to open. Knowing you can always soften the arms, especially if your shoulders feel a little irritated today. You can soften the neck, letting the nose sweep a little bit right and left. And then when you feel ready, these feet are going to start to walk back towards the center of your mat. Head, neck, shoulders lifts up. And then we're going to send everything over there towards the right edge, just as you did before, walking the heels, lifting the chest, stretching those arms. Taking that same banana shape on this side. And then as you start to feel that same ease in the body, the heels walk back towards the middle of the mat. Head, neck, shoulders start to lift and settle back. Knees bend as we bring our body in a little tighter, a little closer. Hands might even come to rest on the tops of the knees as the feet come up off the earth. And just hug those knees in a little bit closer to the body. Rock yourself right and left. Let your low back have some space here. A little bit of focus today on low back, a little bit of focus on hips and shoulders. As eagle pose will make its way into this practice. Feet start to rest down onto the earth. And then when you feel ready, we're gonna play with a little cat-cow tilt of the spine. So this is pretty simple, pretty basic. Not a lot of lift is going to happen up off the earth. When you feel ready, the inhale breath expands the belly. So the only thing that's gonna really lift up off the ground will be the small of your back. You could slide like a paper or something really minimal underneath the small of your back as your belly lifts towards the ceiling. Then as you exhale, you'll push that belly button back down towards the ground. You'll start to feel the pelvis lift just slightly, and you've got that tilt in your spine. So this looks like cat-cow, but you're not lifting anything really. The only thing that's forcing this little bit of therapeutic movement to the low back is the pace of your breath. So I don't have a lot of weight in my feet. I'm not really pushing down into my arms. Everything's pretty relaxed. The only real movement is coming right from the middle of my body, the core space here at the belly. So just continue to track that breath. Let the inhales be nice and full. Let the exhales be nice and lengthy. Give the body the space that it needs. Give yourself one more nice round here. So there's not a lot happening, but hopefully you're feeling some nice, good therapy for the back, like I said. Once you finish that next round, invite those feet up off the ground again, hands coming towards the fronts of the knees, and then just let yourself have some kind rocking right and left, circular motion maybe with the knees. It might even feel good to let the hands move from kneecaps to shins and really hug this in nice and tight. Ball shape often feels good to our spine. We're gonna keep that right knee nice and close to the body. Switch both hands to the right leg and then just elevate this left foot to the ceiling. So still trying to keep that nice gentle force of this right knee into chest while the left foot stretches high. And of course, this left foot can have some movement. It might feel good to roll the ankle or point and flex the toes. And then we'll switch sides. Opposite knee moves into the chest. It's hugged in nice and tight as you elevate the opposite foot towards the sky, rolling the ankle, pointing and flexing the toes. And then as you feel ready, start to bring both knees back into chest, knees hugged nice and tight. We're gonna bring the right foot down, place it on the earth. Let this left foot lift to the sky, but then bend at the left knee, crisscross knees to look like eagle legs. Slight stretches for the outer hips here. Now whatever leg's on top, so that right or left leg that's on top, take that arm and just kind of stretch over, looking for the armpit on that right side. So it's kind of underneath the right arm, and the right arm stretches over the top. Now you can stay right here and just relax in this nice hugged shape. You can focus on the cat-cow tilt. A little bit of a tongue twister there. Trying to lift and lower that low back again, or it might feel nice to bring these feet in, knees rather in, feet lifting up off the ground. You can stay in this shape where you can start to activate your arms a little bit. Maybe you take more of traditional eagle here with arms taking eagle shape, maybe resting the back of the head on the ground, but letting the nose sweep a little bit right and left. Perfect. As you feel ready, these feet are going to come back down. Arms start to relax towards shoulders if they aren't already. Go ahead and separate those arms. You might need a little assistance to uncross your legs. Let the knees jog or sweep right and left. Make any adjustments to clothing that's going to allow you to be a little bit more comfortable. And then we'll switch to the other side. So this time, left foot staying planted, right foot lifts. Right knee crosses over, or just whatever is the opposite of what you did before. Now that knee that's on the top, that arm is what's going to stretch hand over to look for the armpit on that opposite side. Other arm goes on top. You can stay right here and focus on those cat-cow tilts like I talked about before, lifting and lowering that belly button down into the ground. Or it might feel nice to add a little bit of height underneath the knees, underneath the feet, bringing those knees in towards chest. Now this can stay right here in this hugged motion, or you might start to open the arms so they make either an X shape or back-to-back palms into more of a traditional eagle. And one of my favorite things about doing eagle here on my back is that I do have full range of a little bit of movement that can happen through my nose and my neck. I'm not worried about my balance as I would be doing this in a standing pose. It allows for a little bit more opening for outer hips, for shoulders, and as I said, gives you that opportunity to focus on the breath, provide whatever therapy you need in this shape, taking your time to lower down from that big shape. More stress on balance there. Feet come apart from one another, assistance of the hands if you need it, and then just stretch the arms as wide as they can go. If you've got the freedom to make a T shape, go ahead, let those knees rock a little bit right and left. Really allowing a little bit of therapy or stretching for that low back. Side body, hips. All right, fantastic. Next time you're back to your right side, start to bring your right arm and let it focus on being a pillow as you roll all the way to your side and rest there. Resting on the right side, hand comes down to earth. Press into the ground. And bring yourself up towards your seat. And we're going to shift from seat to high knees. Now, if you've already taken your blanket and rolled it like a bolster, but you think you might be better served having this be more of a platform for your knees to rest on, feel free to do so. We're going to use our next inhale breath to make our body nice and long, hands stretching up over the head, and then exhale this down to heart. So just take a couple rounds of that same movement, hands stretching nice and tall, exhaling down to heart. Last one, same repetition with the breath and hands to heart. Now we're going to add on this time as you reach those hands back up towards the sky. Exhale breath lets you hinge, fold down towards the earth. Just take yourself into a child's pose, sitting those hips back towards your heels. Inhale breath. Use the weight to shift towards hands and then lift this back up nice and tall, all the way above your head. Exhale down to heart. Let's do that one more time. So inhale, reach, look, stretch the spine. Exhale, hinge, fold. Bring the hands down to earth. Shift the hips back towards your heels. Inhale, start to come back up to those same high knees, hands above the head. As you exhale these hands down into the heart, we'll drink in a nice full breath here at center. And then start to gaze off over that right shoulder, adding a little twist. Inhale, bring these hands back to center, over the left shoulder. Back to center. When you feel ready, hands will drift up towards the ceiling. But this time, right hand falls towards earth as the left hand just reaches up and over. Inhale this back up to center. And then let that side body have that same opening stretch on this side. Beautiful. Hands lift back up. From here, as you exhale, let the hands drop down towards earth. Right foot's going to step straight out to the side. Inhale to bring these hands up. And then drift over towards that right leg. Inhale, bring the hands up. Exhale, fold down towards the floor. Switch out your knees. Opposite knee switches. Other leg stretches out. Hands lift back up. As you exhale, head towards that long leg. Inhale this back up. Now we're going to do it one more time, both sides. Exhale, fold. Switch out your knees. Inhale, lift it back up. Exhale to the side. Inhale, lift it back up. Exhale it down, switch out your knees. When the inhale feels ready, legs are out to side, arms are lifted, exhale down. Inhale back up. Exhale, hands down. Go ahead and put both knees back on the mat. Sit back, take your child's pose. Really let the belly drape down onto the tops of the thighs, stretching those hands straight forward. Sitting into that child's pose, letting the spine find length here. As the next natural inhale comes around, bring yourself up to tabletop, wrists under shoulders, knees under hips, couple cat-cows. You're comfortable with that motion, so just take your time. Belly dropping down on the inhale, tail lifts, chin lifts. Exhale, breath, round the back, round the spine. So just take your time, a couple more easy rounds here. Last one. As you feel ready, right foot starts to extend nice and long behind the body. Bend that right knee, flatten out the top of the right foot as if you were holding a serving tray on that foot. As you exhale, you're going to bring this right knee to tap the floor right on the outside edge of that left leg. Now, it may not go all the way down to the ground, but it's going to kind of tap right behind. Then you'll inhale to lift this back up. Exhale, bring the knee down, kind of crisscrossing into an eagle leg, and then inhaling it back up. Just take that a couple more times and do your own variation. You need to change things up a little bit. If this outer hip feels like it's getting a lot of work, it might be the positioning of that knee. You might need to bring your knee a little wider. Now, the next time you put yourself back into an eagle leg, see if you can just sit into that just a little bit. Hands might reach out in front of you. Outer edge of the hip, getting a little stretch. You might even drop down to forearms or forehead down into the ground. Perfect. Take your time, bring yourself back up. Tabletop, wrists under shoulders, knees under hips, cat-cow, belly drops, inhale breath. Exhale breath, rounded back, rounded spine. Two more just like that. Let these cat-cows really link together, the breath in your body. Let it be fluid. As you finish that cat-cow, left leg starts to extend nice and long behind you. Bending at the knee, flexing that left foot as if you were holding a tray with the left toes, left foot. As you exhale, this knee will come down and touch the floor right on the outer edge of that right knee. Inhale it back up. So just kind of play here, seeing what feels okay. It's kind of an awkward crisscross, I know. It's not something we're used to doing. It's a really great stretch for outer hip. Helps reset the alignment of the back pelvis just by kind of switching up the way the muscles work on that outer edge. So just take your time. Now the next time you float down into what looks like eagle, sit into it a little bit. Maybe stretch the arms longer, maybe drop the forearms, head down into the mat. Perfect. From there, we're going to come out of that shape, hands coming onto ground, coming back to that tabletop. This tabletop's just going to shift with hands walking one nice hand step out in front of the shoulders, Curl toes under, put yourself into a half plank. Bend at the elbows, lower down to the earth. One cobra lift. As you inhale, lift here and pause. Knees attached to earth. Start to pull that low back in as you lift the hips up and find your down dog. First down dog of this practice is going to need some movement, so take your time, walk it around. Shifting weight from right foot to left, switching sides, separating the feet, moving things around in the spine. All right, friends, when you feel ready, right knee drops down into the earth. Step your left foot forward towards your hands. Inhale, breath starts to bring these hands up nice and tall. Exhale, let it find a cactus. Really connect to the breath. Inhaling strong and tall. Exhaling as the arms separate into a cactus shape. Inhale it nice and tall. Exhale it into a cactus shape. Inhale, both hands, let them stay nice and tall. Left foot that is forward, that left hand starts to drop down towards the outer edge of hip. Right hand reaches up and slightly over to this left side. If you have a block, it could certainly go under the hand of this left arm, but it's not necessary if you don't have it. Inhale, bring hands back up nice and tall, and then cartwheel this down towards the floor. Curl the toes under on this back leg. Lift the knee up off the ground. Feel the strength and the might moving down your legs. Heart starts to shine slightly out in front of you. Gaze is forward. Feel that inner might, that inner strength. Let the layers unfold. Love that you can have for yourself. Hands planted on the earth. Front foot starts to take a big step. Put it back here at the back of your mat. Downward facing dog. Walking out that dog, it might even feel nice to lift the left foot to the sky. Bend at the left knee, open the hip. You might even gaze slightly under that right armpit. Foot comes back and finds the ground. This time, as you're ready, the left knee drops to mat. Right foot steps through. Hands come up for the other side. Exhale, cactus shape. Inhale, lift. Exhale, cactus shape. Inhale, lift. Exhale, cactus shape. Inhale, lift. Last one, cactus shape. Arms lift nice and tall. This time, right hand falls down by right hip. Left hand gets length and heads over towards the right side. Again, a block could be used underneath this right hand if you have it or feel like it might be helpful. And then just ease your way back. Hands starting to float back up towards center. We'll cartwheel these hands down to earth. Toes will curl under on that back foot. Lots of length out through that leg. Thinking about strength. Thinking about this front knee at a good, nice line with the floor here. With the ankle. Peeling away the layers. Finding what we can love about ourselves. Hands placing themselves down onto the earth. Big step. Foot moves back. Downward facing dog. Right foot might lift up off the earth this time. You might bend right knee, open right hip, gaze underneath the left armpit. Keeping weight moving out of those hands back towards the wall behind you. Foot returns to earth. And then we're just going to walk with our hands back to find our feet. Take your time until you're in a forward fold here. Head hanging down towards earth. You might collapse a little bit through the knees to really elongate through our spines. And then find a half lift. That inhale breath brings you to a long spine. Exhale. exhale breath drops you back down towards earth. Inhale, plant the feet, reach these hands as high as they can go, and then settle this down into the heart. Right foot takes its time. Right foot steps forward. Left toes turn slightly outward. We're looking for warrior one. So with this warrior one shape, hands will reach up. We're going to create eagle arms in warrior one. So we've got our right knee forward. Right arm's going to come underneath the left elbow to create that crisscross shape. Maybe the backs of hands are touching, maybe not. You can stay right here if you feel like you'd like a little increased challenge. Elbows can lift slightly upward as your gaze goes up towards ceiling. Keeping good alignment with that front knee. Nice full inhale breath here. Exhale breath. Let these arms come back to center. Open up, maybe even backstroke. And then back to center for just a full warrior one. Allowing a little rotation on these back toes to shift this to a crescent lunge. As you exhale, let your arms open to more of a T shape, turning chest towards your bent knee. Inhale, breath, hands back to center. Exhale, breath, cartwheel forward, hands down to ground. Low lunge again. Knee can be lifted, or if we want to drop it into the earth here, that's an option as well. As the strength feels ready, step this foot towards the back of the mat. Downward facing dog. Perfect. Hands start to walk again once more, back towards feet. Really feeling the power shift of weight towards the hands. And then a nice long half lift. Spine is lifted. Elevated, pointed. Exhale, fold. You got it. Stand up nice and strong. Put those feet into the earth. Hands reach tall. Exhale, heart center. Close the eyes. Find a grounding breath right here. Feel the layers peeling away. No one's opinion matters right now. It's just you and your mat. One more nice full breath, maybe even sighing this next exhale out of the body. As you feel ready, the left foot this time takes a nice big step forward. Right foot hits the ground, turns those right toes out slightly so we can start to look for warrior one on this side. A good healthy bend in this front knee, hands find elevation. Now whatever knee is forward, that hand, that arm is what's going to come underneath, crisscrossing at elbows. Taking that same eagle arm shape that we found on our backs. And now standing. Nice therapy for the upper back and shoulders. Trapezius muscles, those big muscles across the upper back. Next natural exhale allows these arms to go wide. Maybe they even do a nice big backstroke. And then we spin up on these back toes to create that big crescent shape, just as we did before. And then turn at the chest so that your chest turns into that twist. Chest turns towards that front knee. Look how much extension I've got on my back leg. Can you do the same? Extend through that back heel. Hands bring themselves back to center. And then we're going to cartwheel back down for that same low lunge. Knee can, of course, always drop into the ground, or you can keep it lifted. The more length we add to the iliopsoas, these big hip flexor muscles, the more therapy we can feel in our low back. Perfect, taking time, foot starts to step from the front of the mat to the back. Maybe child's pose feels more comfortable right now, or you can take yourself into that big downward facing dog. Of course, if you're missing vinyasa, this is where a vinyasa could go. Chaturanga Dandasana to upward facing dog, meeting us in downward facing dog. Or child's pose. If you're not in child's pose, go ahead and drop your knees down to the ground. Meet me here. From there, we'll shift our weight forward towards our hands. And then lower the belly down to the earth. We're going to bring hands forward to make yourself that same supportive pillow. Bending the knees, crisscrossing the ankles. Walk the knees in as close as you can get and just rest. Now, it doesn't really matter which ankle's on top. It's a subtle stretch. And then switch. Opposite ankle crosses. Walk those knees in nice and close to one another. Start to hug the heel slightly towards the glutes. Then from here, unleash the legs. We're going to let your left leg fall down the mat and stretch your left arm out to the side in a T shape. Right hand is going to come right next to the heart. I know it's really difficult for you to see what I'm doing, but it's right next to my heart. I'm just going to start to roll slightly over. So my palm is facing down on this left hand, and I'm going to push with my right palm to slowly roll me over so that my right foot might touch the earth. If this feels okay to the back, to the shoulder, great. If it doesn't, don't go so far. Kind of hang out on your side here. Otherwise, that right foot's kind of coming over the top. You're rolling onto that shoulder. One more nice full breath here. And then ease your way back to your belly. Let your legs go long. Arms are going to come down near hips, locust pose. Inhale, breath, point through toes, lift fingers, long body stretch. Therapy for the back by building that strength. Exhale, fold, drop down to the mat, relax. This time, I'm going to need to scoot over a little bit, but this time, your right arm extends straight out to the side. Left arm kind of hangs out right here next to the side of the body. You'll get your right leg long, your left foot will be bent this time. And when you feel ready, you just start to kind of roll over. So giving just a little gentle push with this left hand until your right foot maybe feels comfortable enough to roll behind you. Now again, if this doesn't work, you can have something that's a little more modified. You're just kind of hanging out here with a little gentle pressure happening into that shoulder. You might even welcome this left knee up the mat for kind of a half frog. The idea is just to get as much length as you can out of that right side, right arm, so that that shoulder gets a little bit of therapy there. All right, easing out of that, we'll bring ourselves back to belly. One more locust pose. Hands start to point down towards hips. Option to leave them here, or maybe a lace this time behind the back. As you inhale, press into the pelvis, point through the toes. Gaze is slightly forward and down towards the earth. And it's also really important that you breathe here. So try not to hold your breath or talk through a bunch of cues. Difficult to do. Exhale and fold yourself down. Reverse Savasana pillow here. Toenails in the mat maybe. Or maybe you bend the knees and rock, roll. A little bit right and left. All right, we need to get ourselves up for one more remaining round of standing posture before we head to the floor. So when you feel ready, hands are going to rejoin areas of the heart, or maybe they go a little further south towards the breastbone, pushing into the ground. Maybe a full up dog feels nice, or cobra. And then transitioning yourself, really being active through the core to lift yourself into a downward facing dog. I feel like today I need one of those mats that's like 6 foot in diameter. It's a big circular mat because I am all over the place. And half the time I'm on the floor, I'm not even on a mat. All right, as you feel ready, feet to hands this time, or hands to feet, whichever feels better. Half lift, get that long spine. Exhale, fold. Inhale, up to standing. Exhale, hands to heart. Right foot becomes your standing foot, left knee lifts, and then cross at the knees, create those eagle legs. Sitting down into your eagle seat, toenails might be touching the mat as a kickstand, or you might be able to wrap around the back here. Whatever leg is on top, that arm might go underneath for the fullest extension of eagle today. If you're close to a wall or a chair, something you want to hold on to here and let the arms go, feel free to take that shape as an alternative. But stay in whatever version you might be in an eagle for about 3 more breaths. Coming out anytime you might need, or softening the arms into just a gentle embrace. Separating from that shape when you feel ready, arms reach wide and above the head, feet separate, maybe making kind of an X shape, and then exhale and fold. Hang in a ragdoll, maybe reach fingers towards big toes, fish hooking between first and second toes. Maybe the feet even walk a little wider if space allows, and you kind of lean and sway right and left. Keeping the freedom of the movement wherever it feels best to you. Perfect. As you feel ready, little baby steps with these feet in closer if they've been wide. Ease your way up to standing, maybe one vertebra at a time. Using that inhale. Lift you up tall. And then we'll switch sides just as we did before. So this time, opposite foot becomes the standing foot, left foot, right foot lifts. Right foot crosses over, maybe the toes are just taking an easy tap. Whatever leg's on top, that arm is going to come underneath. Paying attention to the angle of the shoulders here. Allowing the stretch to come through the upper back, outer edges of the hip. Knowing that if you have that table, chair, couch, wall, something nearby that you'd like to use instead. Excuse me. Knew I was going to sneeze. I could feel it coming. And then just when you feel ready, after you've held that for a couple more breaths, we'll expand just like we did before. Coming up to a tall stance, X shape with the body, and then just fold it into your ragdoll. Head is heavy and down through the middle. Shake it yes. Shake it no. Sway it, reach for toes, reach for the edges of the ankles. If a twist feels good here, you could certainly take a twisted fold. Maybe that feels nice. There's always variations that can happen in these transitional moments. And if less feels like more to you, great. Or if the body's calling for something bigger, feel free. We're gonna turn this forward fold into a squat when you feel ready. My heels are gonna turn slightly inward. I'm gonna sink my hips right down between my heels and come into a yogic squat. Knowing that you can always skip these squats, you can let your hands reach behind you, come down to earth, maybe just hug around those knees. If arm balances are your thing, you can always play there too. Or you can put some weight into your hands and play with crow or crane. All right, when you feel ready, hands walking back by hips, dropping those hips down to earth. Go ahead, it might feel nice to let your knees fall out and open to the center. Allow that spine to get nice and tall. Any movements that the neck might be requesting, go ahead and grab a hold of those. And then I'm going to give you one more variation that's going to allow a little bit more stretch for those hips again. When you feel ready, head will come back up over spine. We'll start to reach for the outer edges of these knees, stand them up to center. You're going to take your left knee, let it come down and rest on the mat. Right leg, the idea here is to try to get this to come across this left knee. So this is a more modified version, just a tall spine right here. Hands might grace this top of the knee. A more advanced version might be to try to see if we can line the knees up. I'm going to shift here a little bit. Shifting so that you can see knees line to one another. This is sometimes called shoelace or cow face legs. It's got different names. Not really sure why it's called cow face. There are some movements you can do with your arms here to reach around and make connections with your arms. Or this can be much more relaxed where the hands are just kind of hanging out here on the sides of the body. Of course, if that shape doesn't work, remember you don't have to be so big and take a subtle version. Giving yourself one more nice full breath. And then just ease out of that unwinding. It might feel nice to let the legs go long, maybe jog the knees for a moment. And then we'll think about the opposite version happening now. So the other leg being kind of your bottom leg, pulling that heel back towards your glute first, and then lifting this other leg over the top. Remember, you have your more relaxed version, nice tall spine, or you have the idea where you're trying to stack these knees on top of one another. Remembering that if this doesn't work, you don't have to be in this shape. If you'd rather be somewhere else, that's fine too. It's a nice big stretch of that outer hip. Cow face is a pretty big shape. And like I said, you can always take a little bit of movement with your arms. Or they can be more subtle, softer out to the sides, or holding on to these feet. Excellent work. Just take your time to start to release these legs back out to the front. That was the last big stretch for those hips. We're going to look for our blankets now. If you are not straight down your mat, like me, I'm not really straight down my mat, I'm going to switch. But roll your bolster or your towel, your blanket, whatever you're making here. If you're lucky enough to have a small bolster, that would be perfect. But otherwise, we can create one using a rolled blanket. We're going to set that down on our mats at where we want to put our head. And the idea here is to lay the spine right down over this blanket. So I'm going to put the tip of my tail right at the bottom of the blanket there, and then just see if I can trace this right up my back so that my head starts to relax onto the blanket. Now, if your blanket's not long enough, you're going to want to pull it out just a little bit, or you can always reach for a pillow off your couch Or I've seen some who'll even like put a block underneath their head. Sometimes that's a nice elevation. But just take your time here. The idea is that you just feel just enough kind of widening through the tops of the chest. It's almost as if we're trying to pull away the rib cage a little bit. Let the heart out through the middle. Now your legs can be long if that feels okay in your own personal body. If it doesn't, constructive rest might be nice. A little bit of separation between feet, but letting the knees kind of crash into one another. Sometimes I feel good with hands on belly. Sometimes I feel good with my arms up over my head. Sometimes it feels good to let my arms go to low V. Take just a quiet moment to decide which shape feels best to you. Now for me, there is a certain element, a small element of discomfort here, because this is making my spine expand. It's making my chest open. It's lifting a little bit right in the middle of my back that tends to be hunched over a lot during my day. So a little discomfort is pretty normal. Of course, if it feels like pain, we want to roll off of this or adjust, or maybe make it a little smaller, not quite as tight of a roll, not as thick of a roll to lay the spine on. Just see if you can find a little bit more quiet right there in that shape. All right, taking your time to remove yourself from that shape. We're just gonna slowly roll towards your right-hand side or your left, really doesn't matter. To start to reach that hand behind you, pull this rolled bolster out from beneath of you. And it might be nice, before you completely get rid of it, to just reach down and kind of put it on the backs of your knees. Sometimes it feels good to hold it there for a moment. Sometimes it feels good just to let it drop into the ground so that it's there and ready when you find your Savasana, just a slight lift behind the backs of the knees. Any other postures that feel like they might help you relax into that final resting shape are welcome here. Again, remembering it might feel nice to hug these knees in tight. Right knee to chest, left foot elevates like we did in our opening part of today's series. Or switching sides. We did a lot for hip flexors tonight, a lot for shoulders and outer hips. As a result, that often brings quite a bit of therapy for the low back. If a happy baby feels like it might make sense, feel free to reach for outer edges of the feet, rock and roll a little bit side to side, maybe even bring the soles of the feet together in kind of a reclined down angle, but the feet are up off the earth. There's lots of different options that can find themselves here. It might even feel nice to go back into those eagle legs that we did as the opener. So as you know, my style at the end of class is often lots of, you could try this, or you could try that. You can try this, or you can try that. The reasoning behind that is we all need different things to help close off the chapter of tonight's practice or today's practice. So just listen to what your body needs in order to finish this story today. What layers still need to be peeled away? Don't listen or think that my opinion changes with what poses you do, or anyone's opinion for that matter. Chatting before class, one of you said, you might end up just laying in child's pose for a while today, or in Savasana. You know what? That'd be great, because you're listening to yourself. So here, as we close off the practice, if you're done, you're ready to just move into a little longer Savasana, take it. But if there's something else that your body's asking for, the invitation is there for that as well. I'm going to move this rolled bolster so that it's in a position to rest itself right behind my kneecaps. And that just little bit of a lift feels really nice. If you need something more and you have blocks, you could certainly put the blocks underneath the backs of the knees and then lay the blanket on top of it just to give it another cushy layer over those hard blocks. That's a nice option. Feet might be long, legs might be long, rather, feet curled, allowing the toes to move towards the outer edges of the mat. Maybe hands on the hips or the belly, or long over the head. Whatever shapes you feel make the most sense to you today, I encourage you to embrace those. Closing out today's chapter, today's practice, move into that final rest and let everything start to settle back into place. Staying within that reclined or rested pose for as long as you must need. I'll be here to guide you back when it's time to come back to space, back to our reality. Just take your time, finding time for full relaxation from the top of the head to the tips of your toes. Slowly starting to become aware of your breath, allowing a gradual increase to happen to your inhale and a slow, easy release on the exhale. Let gentle movements come into the fingers or the toes. You might even start sweeping the nose across the ceiling, adding some gentle movement to the head and neck. And then as you feel ready, the feet might start to move a little closer to us. Maybe the knees get hugged in towards the chest in a tight ball, or the right arm comes up to the head as you roll to your right hand side, resting in side lying savasana for just a few more moments. Elevating the heart, reminding yourself of the safety that you can have in this space. Only returning to your seat when you feel ready, not forced. If you do find yourself in a seated posture, perhaps your hands come together, palm to palm, thumbs pressing in towards heart center, into the chest. And we close tonight's practice, or today's practice, with this reading, Improving Ourselves. It's only one corner of the universe you can be certain of improving, and that's your own self. We've got all kinds of ideas on how the world could be better, and we're usually more than happy to share them with anyone who wants to listen, even those who don't. How the government ought to be run, how local businesses or merchants ought to operate their businesses, how our best friends ought to lead their lives. If we applied these same ideas to our own lives, not only might we improve ourselves, but we might also realize that we don't have as many answers as we think we do. My ideas are good ones, but there's no reason anyone should have to listen to them. They have their own ideas about how things should be done, and I can respect this. There's only one corner of the universe we can be certain of improving, and that's our own self. I greatly appreciate you making this time to peel back your layers, to find that sense of love that you see within yourself. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again for practicing with me. Namaste.